Looking for the skills and training you need to get a new career? Call CTC, the Center for Training and Careers, and start working towards that new career today. Call CTC in San Jose.
Good evening. I'm Cihuapilli Rose Amador, and this is Native Voice TV. Welcome to the show. Today we have with us Eli Painted Crow. Welcome, Eli.
Thank you, Cihuapilli.
And Eli is Yaqui, and Eli is a veteran of the military. Tell us about your experience.
Well, thank you, Cihuapilli. I am retired 22 years, and my last tour was in Iraq, and I've spent the last 5 years traveling through the United States, trying to educate communities about newly returned soldiers, military people, and the struggles that families have when they do come back. And so that's what I've been doing the last 5 years, is sort of advocating for people that deal with the military.
And you had a difficult time, and a lot of others have as well. Tell us about some of the experiences.
Actually, yeah, there's really a lot of challenges in coming home, in dealing with people, in dealing with PTSD that is talked about more now than when I first came back. And especially for women, because there is an assumption that women are not in the front lines, and what people don't understand is the front lines is everywhere. And many women are coming back with PTSD and a lot of challenges with family, with children, things like that. So I've spent a good portion of the time actually going to universities and talking with students in different capacities about some of those challenges and some of those struggles around what to expect and how to educate the community.
Now, the last time you were on, you told us about some of the experiences you had there, but you've learned a lot more things that have gone on with people since your last visit. Tell us about some of those things.
Yeah, the VA is really working hard to deal with the normal veteran that returns. One of the challenges that I am finding is that Native veterans are really struggling quite a bit more in terms of services, quite a bit more in terms of access, dialogue, just the differences in approach that sometimes needs to happen with Native vets, and the spiritual aspect that's missing from the VA that at one time was there for some of the VA sites, but doesn't seem to be there now. And so there's a really big gap in fragmentation in terms of actually helping Native veterans and their families.
Why do you think that's changed, or things are not available anymore?
Well, I don't know how much has changed, because I've only accessed the VA in the last 5 years, and where I live, they really don't promote that. As a matter of fact, one staff person called Native spirituality and the practice of it sort of a myth or a lore, and that was quite shocking to hear that was the thought of how we call our spirit back to heal ourselves, as not being real for many of the VA employees, or just the thinking of the VA in itself. I know that Menlo Park used to have a sweat lodge, but it's been taken down, and there's been a struggle to bring that up. One of the challenges that I'm facing personally right now is that in 2009 I was invited to be part of a project to write my story in a book called The Lonely Soldiers, written by a journalist by the name of Helen Benedict. And I thought it would be a good thing in terms of educating people and talking about, I was the only Native woman in the book. And as it turns out, that the book has been quite exploited to the degree that they're using my story at the Columbia University to do they did it actually, I couldn't stop it. A research project entailed 400 students to assess, do an intervention, and do a diagnosis and treatment plan for me with my picture, with my name, to be available for public viewing. And so I found that quite shocking that in 2011 that Native people are still being used as research projects without permission from the person who's being researched. And
Did they do that on everyone in the book, or
no,
just you?
only me. And they said that I was picked because I was a Native woman. So I'm really shocked that the university, an Ivy League, university, would still consider it not important to contact me and let me know that this is going on. And what I am finding in doing that, and having gone to New York, try to talk to them not listening to me, half of the students were appalled and tried to reject the project, and they were told if they didn't do it, they wouldn't graduate. So there was just a big to-do right now, and it's still in the process of figuring out what to do next. But what I learned about for myself is that it's happening in a lot of other universities as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the other thing that's happening is veterans are being discriminated against in the schools. And I think a lot of
You
it
mean
is
as far as using benefits, or
as far as being students.
Oh.
Yes. And because students are not educated in terms of a vet coming back and going into school, I believe one student he was an Iraq veteran. He was heckled there at the University of Columbia as well by his peers, by students, because he was trying to tell a story of which people really didn't understand. And so there needed to be an education within the school system, within the staff system, within, people just aren't aware, and a lot of not good things are happening to veterans, and they're being discouraged in terms of participating in, the educational system. We're not just returning, back into community. We're returning in a lot of different ways with a lot of different problems, and we just really need to educate.
I'm going to ask you to share a quick story, and because I thought it was so appalling that you shared with us last time when you were in the military and they referred to enemy territory.
Yes. I was at a briefing while I was stationed in Iraq, and a couple of E5s came in who had just been briefed by one of the commanders. And in that briefing, one of the things that they said is they called enemy territory Indian country. And I'm standing there in total disbelief. Here I am wearing the same uniform, listening to this briefing, and I'm standing there being called the enemy. And they quiet him down, but that's just goes to show what the thinking still is across the board when they think of enemy. We're still the enemy. So
well,
in my mind, that's how it felt to me at that moment. And that has never left me. It really put a sour, bitter taste in my mind, in my mouth, and in my career of 22 years of like, wow, I've done this. And in the end, this is what I get.
I actually thought of you when they were talking about getting bin Laden, and they were referring to him as Geronimo.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that, and I just thought, wow, they couldn't pick a better code name. That's also very telling of where we sit as a people in this nation, even though we per capita are the highest who enlist in the military around the nation. We're like 3% of the population, and I think the highest percentage in terms of who enlists in the military, we're still seen as the enemy. Yeah. And if people pay attention, you will see that continuously in a lot of the statements that are being made. Absolutely. And so I'm striving right now to sort of bring a voice to Columbia University and ask the Native community to email them and let them know this is not okay stuff. Columbia, it's not okay to do it in 2011, to do research projects on Native people just because you think you can and that nobody will say
Sounds interesting,
anything.
huh?
Yeah, well, it's not new, I guess. It happens over and over and over. And I have so many stories to tell about women, Native women, who experience these things on a lot of different levels in a lot of different places.
Where should they write?
Well, they can write to Columbia EDU, Department of Social Work. Dean Takamura is the person who refused to stop the project. and also the journalist, Helen Benedict, who is the journalist there, so they can write to Helen Benedict at Columbia University.
Okay.
And the dean there for journalism. And it would be great for them to know that the Native community will, it's not going to allow this to happen without saying something to them. And we're just looking into, what else can be done? How can we prevent this from happening to the vets that are coming behind us, to Native people who have a story to tell, and it not be exploited,
Right.
in such a way that's harmful.
To face more discrimination
Yes.
after contributing like that. And hopefully our viewers will email, write, and oppose this kind of research being done.
Yeah, I think that it's very, there's a lot of students wrote tons of emails, professors from even from Canada were writing appalled by this action. They had plenty of time to stop it. They had plenty of time to renegotiate the project. And they refused to even have a conversation with me around that until like the day before. And so we're just trying to take measures to keep the message going that this isn't okay. I will be building a website. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but I'm going to be inviting Native community to tell their stories of discrimination, not just in the university, but in their lives, and just bring some awareness that it's still happening. Maybe it's a little more subtle, but it's still happening.
Doesn't seem very subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been involved in other projects, you said, as well?
Absolutely. One of the things that I think is really important that I have learned in the last 5 years is I wanted to be in a peaceful place when I came back, and so I tried joining peace organizations, except the problem that I found is that they weren't very peaceful. So instead, I started an organization called Turtle Women Rising, and that they can find the website at turtlewomenrising.com. And it's women stepping up for the planet, women stepping up with the drum, and I know that a lot of communities have a hard time with women drumming. And so I try to tell the story of the drum, that the drum was made and given to the men so that they could understand life and feel the heartbeat. And because of all of the violence against children and against women and against, the earth, that women are just stepping up and taking that drum and bringing life back into that. And it's not taking it away from men, it's just connecting it more to the people, And so we have a group of women from all over the United States who meet once a year. This year we're meeting in Olympia, Washington, in front of the Capitol for 4 days and 4 nights. We will be drumming continuously. And during that gathering, every evening, we will have a ceremony for veterans and for military people to welcome them home and asking them to put their prayers in the fire and to have the elders come and pray with them and help them in their step back into the civilian world. So everyone is invited.
And that's in Olympia, Washington?
Yes.
I think my brother lives near there.
October 7th through the 10th. And everyone is invited. We would drum 24 hours a day for those 4 days. And, lots of people come from all over the place. We had our last one in October 2010 in D.C. And if you go to our website, you can see the video from that one and from the one of 2008 as well. So just inviting everyone to be part of this, to help us welcome our military home, to help us have conversations while we're there with family members and how to support that person and how to support that family, and do giveaways and just really honor them up in a good way,
That's great. Now, what was that website again?
turtlewomenrising.com.
Okay.
And we have an email address. It's turtlewomenrising@live.com. And that's, if people want to contact me, they can contact me there. But if they go to the website, there's lots of information. It's a free gathering, we will be asking for donations down the road because we gotta, pay for our elders and feed them and house them and just take care of the logistics of all that. So, but everyone is invited, and we certainly hope to see you all there and be part of that. And
wonderful. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, my brother lives there, so maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for being on the show again. I really appreciate that. And keep us posted on what you're working on, because I know you're working very hard, and I appreciate all the work you've done for the community and for the veterans.
Thank you, Cihuapilli, for having me.
And thank you for joining us. We'll be right back after a small break.
Want to find out what's going on in your community? El Observador is San Jose's bilingual weekly newspaper. Get your free copy today.
Thanks for joining us. Now we have with us Linda Woods, and welcome, Linda. And Linda, what tribe are you with?
I'm a Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians in Peshabitown, Michigan. That's where I'm from.
Michigan.
Yes.
And one of the reasons Linda has been on the show before, but we wanted to bring her back because she's leaving. You're going back to Michigan.
Yes, I am. Yes,
and
I
you're
am.
going back with your family. Tell us about where you're going, and then we'll get into what you're working on.
Okay. Well, as an elder, we go home, and we always return back to our tribal roots. And I have a lot to learn yet as an elder. Growing up, I wasn't taught a lot of things like a lot of us Native people. And so I'm looking forward to learning my language. I'm looking forward to cultural teachings. I'm looking forward to, I want to sing with the ladies' hand drum group. I'd love to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's many things that I want to do when I'm back home. And
how exciting!
Yes, I'm thrilled to be going home.
Now you're a veteran.
Yes, I am. I served in United States Air Force, 1962 to 1966. I was in during the early part of the Vietnam era, and I was stationed in Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. This was during the time when it was the civil rights era, and the civil rights movement was very active, shall we say, and it was very difficult being in the South at that time, especially for someone like myself, a person of color. That was when the blacks and the whites were segregated. And so there were two different signs on doors, bathrooms, over water fountains and all of that, and I'd never seen anything like that before.
You say, where do I drink?
Exactly.
Where do I go?
Where am I supposed to go? I don't fit in either one. So it was very difficult for me at that time.
I bet. I remember when we moved from Pennsylvania to California, and we came cross country, and we stopped at all those places, and it's like, okay, I just won't have a drink of water. You don't know where to go.
It was very hard. It was very difficult. I'd never seen that kind of blatant racism. And then I'd hear all kinds of comments as well. So it was you know, we were getting into the war, and it was during the time when President Kennedy was shot. And I think in the 60s, there was a lot of turmoil in the nation, and we certainly felt it as we served. So I served with many other women, and I was in the communication squadron, and it was fun. I still have friends that I still am in contact with, and you know, once we have buddies, you know, lifelong buddies, and so I'm still in communication with them also.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, you've spent a lot of years working with people in recovery.
Yes, yes. I'm a social worker. I graduated with my social work master's degree right here in San Jose State in 1994. And I did not intend to go to school, really. I wanted to work, and it seemed like the Creator had other plans for me. So he brought me back here to go to school, and I loved it. I just loved it. I ended up in the child welfare part of social work. And then when I graduated in '94, I worked for the county here for a little bit, and then I was called to go back home again at that time. And I have always worked with people in recovery from alcoholism and from addictions. And it's my passion, actually. It's what I love to do the most. To me, seeing someone who's new in recovery just brings tremendous joy in my heart. I just can't begin to tell you that. When I was at home in Michigan, I worked as a substance abuse director for my tribe for a little bit, and then I was also substance abuse director for a little Traverse Bay Bands, which is north of where I'm from. And I was there for about 6 years, and I just loved working with Native people particularly. And many years ago, in the 70s, I worked in San Jose here with the Four Winds Lodge, which was started up about, I think it was 1973, I want to say. And I was on the Alcohol Advisory Board at the Indian Center at that time. And then we started Four Winds Lodge. And it was like a halfway house for Indian men primarily. And these were street guys and chronic alcoholics. But I don't know, there's something about working with people like this that just, it touches my heart deeply.
You see their lives
change. It still
change.
does, yes. It's just powerful. It's a very powerful thing to
Are you going to
witness.
continue that type of work when you go back to
Yes,
Michigan?
yes.
You are?
Actually, I already have a job.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I'm a consultant, and I'm going to be working with a project, a special project. It's called the Access to Recovery Project, and it's in the state of Michigan with Intertribal Council of Michigan, and I'll be working with all of the 12 tribes in Michigan. And so I'm really excited about that. So I'll be doing part of the training, cultural training. I'll be doing some what we call recovery coach training, and whatever else they want me to do, I'll be happy to do.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm
Well,
real
you have
happy
something to
about
look
that.
forward to there.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really wonderful.
yeah.
How do you see the experience, San Jose versus Michigan?
Well, this is a urban setting, and it's very different from working on reservations. And the most distinct thing that I see is I learned there that as Anishinaabe people is who we are, which is the 3 tribes of Ottawa-Chippewa and Potawatomi tribes were considered Anishinaabe people. And so those are the primary tribes that I serve in Michigan. And so those are the folks that I work with pretty much. It's very different working with reservation, if you will, tribal people right on their homeland than it is in the urban setting. In the urban setting, you know, there are multiple tribes here. Navajo and Lakota and people from Washington, Oregon, Utah, just all over, and find themselves here in the city. And what I see here more than on the reservations is the identity is a little bit, it's not as distinct, I guess you could say, as on the reservation. And so it's very different, very different. But alcoholism and addiction is still very much in denial. You know, that's the pattern, you know, that no one wants to get into recovery because things are going well. You know, that's not, usually it takes some kind of crisis to bring people into recovery. And it starts at a very young age, actually. We have adolescent treatment programs, both inpatient and outpatient. And we have, I've worked with elders. And working with elders is very different than working with an adolescent or working with, say, a chronic street person per se. So there's a lot of difference there, and we somehow try to weave our culture into the treatment process. It isn't totally the Western model, although we do use the Western model, but it's different when you weave the culture in. Because then the culture incorporates what we call the 7 grandfather teachings into what we're doing. And so we're trying to guide them back into recovery with the use of our culture. And maybe they'll get involved with singing and drumming or attending gatherings, powwow gatherings, or ceremonies. Ceremonies is very big at home, so it's exciting work.
And you were recently honored at the Mount Madonna powwow for all your work and your farewell. And
oh my goodness, yeah, I was just over the top with that. I was so overwhelmed.
Well deserved.
I was so overwhelmed with it. My friend Leon said he wanted to honor me, and I've seen people be honored, and I thought, oh, that'll be a nice send-off. But the way he did it was something different, and I hadn't anticipated. And he had, he escorted me on my left, and then on my right was my friend Paul Kirkwood, who sings on the southern drum. And Leon said, we're going to go halfway around the circle, and the northern drum is going to sing you halfway around the traveling song. And then at the top of the circle, we're going to pause, and then the southern drum is going to bring you back to the completion of the circle. And before we started, he called me up by my Indian name, and I went up, and he wrapped me in a Pendleton blanket, and I was just overwhelmed.
Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming to see us before you leave. We wish you well. We know you'll have a wonderful time, and they're going to love having you there. Yeah. We'll love to see you when you come back to visit in San Jose. Come see us.
Thank you. Thank you for this honor of being here. Thank you so much
for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Native Voice TV. I want to thank Destiny. Where's Destiny? She's out there somewhere. Destiny Reese is visiting from Albuquerque. She was our makeup person this evening. So thanks, Destiny. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Good evening.
Indigenous soul, Indigenous soul, Indigenous soul, Indigenous soul, Indigenous soul. Indigenous